Welcome back to The Vision Within. Today is March 18th, 2018. We're so glad you're joining us. Please join us on our YouTube channel, subscribe and share The Vision Within, and visit our Facebook page, Rising Tides Global. Today we're going to talk about, our last segment of today, are we living in a simulation? Are we living in a vortex or a
simulated reality, a game.
Reality, a game, a video game. I mean, all these things. Or is this something that we've been taught in religion, whatever that is? So we're going to have a juicy topic.
Mm-hmm. We are. And who are you?
I am Lisa. So thanks for joining us. I'm Lisa.
I'm Loretta.
I'm Lori.
And I'm Katrina.
So who wants to start?
Okay.
Yeah,
great, girl.
Yay.
Take it.
So I had an interesting experience just recently, and I was walking. I was walking out in a kind of an open field, and I had a couple of little crazy dogs going with me, and I felt like, it's going to sound wild, but it almost felt like when you're watching a television screen and a frequency comes in and interrupts it, and it kind of goes, ee, there's like a little line, and I saw like a blue sky through it, and enough that it made me stop and pause, because I was like, wow, what was that? I'd had that happen to me probably 3 years ago. Mark and I were walking our dogs, and we were in an open area by water. Mm-hmm. And I looked up into clouds, and all of a sudden, like, the clouds parted, and I saw blue, but I was told it was a rip in time. It's what I heard as I was watching it. And what I think is that when we are very present, the vibration that we have of the past, present, and now, all coming together, I think that shows us our creation abilities to create our reality and not rest back on a programmed reality, what we're programmed to think we're seeing. Like, I remember doing a meditation with Deepak Chopra, and he said, look at the trees and say, I am seeing, but you couldn't name it. You couldn't say a tree because we're programmed to believe that's a tree. So I'm seeing something living and it's green, or it appears like it's this color to me in my spectrum. And it was a lot more challenging than what I thought, so yeah.
That's fascinating to think about, and also interesting because I've had a similar experience, except mine was in Paris with the split in time, and I'll share that in a moment. But what comes up for me is that if, there are so many programs, there are so many beliefs, there are so many ways of thinking, living, and being that we have been influenced or taught in this reality, in this life, about what's what. And so I have been asking a lot lately, if I were to release all of that and see what is and see truth, what would that look like? And, there's a part of me, just in being completely transparent, that is somewhat fearful of what I might find.
Sure.
Because if I let go of the illusion, my concern is, do I also let go of the beauty in some of the things that I love? And how do I not be attached to that? Because I feel in my core that being okay with letting go of all of it and being in the flow of, energy of life, of something larger than myself, of something larger than this life and this reality. It's been my experience that when I do let go and step into a different flow, that there's something infinitely more beautiful waiting for me than what I ever would have anticipated. And it's about me being willing to take that first step. Yeah. And so, that's kind of been circling around for me lately. And I've been asking for more of that and asking, please, thank you for allowing me to let go of what no longer serves me. Step without fear into seeing truth. And so, more to come on what that will unfold in my life. And at the same time, so that's sort of the part A. The part B is I do subscribe to what you were talking about when you saw The Wrinkle in Time, which, P.S., I hate to plug, but I really am excited to see that movie.
We should go together.
Mark doesn't
Me
wanna
too,
watch
as a
it,
kid.
so
I just reread it.
I'll go watch
Did you
it.
really?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's something lovely about that. But the Wrinkle in Time, so I worked for a French company some years ago, and this was before I was focused on and pursuing and allowing, frankly, a wider spiritual understanding and growth in my life. And I thought that, well, like usual, back in those days when you would have an experience that would be an opportunity for greater understanding and a larger worldview, I think, well, this is it. Lost my mind. It's finally happened. And that happened a few times before I was like, oh, you know what? I just need to go with the flow. But what happened was that I was in Paris, and I was in this old part of the city in Montmartre, and had just walked out of Sacred Heart or Sacré-Cœur Church and was walking up toward the square in that part of the city.
I love that part of the city.
I do too.
Yeah.
Me too. It has wonderful energy, and it was a very creative part of the city where all the artists lived and the poets and all of that. And there's this place as you're walking the cobblestone street from the church up to the square, and there's this elbow room building that's sort of shaped like a V, and it's pink. And it was a cafe, but it was closed. And I was standing there looking at it, just admiring how awesome it was that there was this pink building, because I do love the color, light pink. And I was just admiring this building and how cool it was, and the architecture of it and the color of it and everything. And all of a sudden, it's almost like a curtain got pulled back, and I saw a different time, and I saw people drinking and eating and dressed differently. It was a different period. I saw myself looking at that space in a different period.
Wow.
And I knew instinctively, I felt in the very fiber of my being that I was home. Like I had just gotten home. And I thought, okay, this registers at about 9.9 on my weird shit-o-meter. Excuse my language. But seriously, I had no idea. I thought, well, this is it. I've lost it. I feel like I'm home. I feel all of these things.
Did you recognize any of the people?
I didn't. It was,
but you knew them then.
But they were familiar to me, and I felt like I was walking into a place where I would be greeted by people that I knew. And so I didn't think to look down at myself to see if I looked different at that point. But then as soon as somebody came up behind me and said, hey, are you going up to the square? And it's almost like the curtains went down, and it was as it is now. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And then what happened later was, that was my first trip, my first company trip to the city. As we left in the cab to leave from that trip, the bigger trip, not just the day, in that part of the city, and we were in the cab going from the hotel to the airport. And I remember having this feeling of sadness and longing, and it brought tears to my eyes. I didn't want to leave. And I thought, oh, wow. So I didn't get it at that point, but it was the same thing. It was a wrinkle in time. And I think the interesting part was, and what I now understand, is that I brought that reminder to myself. I allowed that to come into my reality, so I would remember a time and place in my life where I felt at home and I felt loved, because that first trip was a period of huge disruption for me, where I just finalized my divorce. I was in emotional kind of turmoil for a lot of that, and I felt such a strong sense of home and love and creativity and inspiration. And I say that trip really reignited my spark for life again, when I was able to go there, because it had always been a dream to go, and that was my first trip. And I got to remind myself of that. And I think it's really beautiful. And from there, I think it's emerged that I create the reality that I want. But simulation, I'm not sure.
Well, you definitely saw a wrinkle in time.
I think that I did as well. I feel that I did.
Well, I have a couple experiences. I'll share one. Maybe I'll have time for the others. That is, the other one is a little bit longer, but it's similar to a wrinkle in time. But what happened recently is that I had, the other night, I was going to sleep about 3 nights ago, And I wasn't asleep yet. And I asked my inner guidance to help me remember how this simulation or this realm or whatever it is works. And all of a sudden, I saw this huge sphere in my third eye because my eyes were closed. And, I was starting to vibrate, like an out-of-body experience. But I saw this huge sphere, bigger than the little white brilliant vortex I see that goes either counterclockwise or clockwise. This was really big, about this big, if you were to visualize it. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And I saw myself kind of like in a space shuttle capsule or something. And I'm looking at this sphere, and all of a sudden the sphere flashes, like, just like a brilliant flash. And I realize and there was a sound associated with it. And I realize I'm now past it. I went through it. And I'm still awake. And I'm now floating in this capsule, this space shuttle capsule or whatever, that was a real dark gray, and it was open at the end that I could see the same size as that sphere. Mm-hmm. And I was floating, and I went into, kind of space, and then I went into the ocean, and I could see everything in the ocean that I'm like, this is pretty cool, because I don't even know if I know in my data bank, in my mind, all these things in the ocean. Mm-hmm. But everything was black and white, which was interesting at this point. And then I go up this like cliff and go up out of the water, and I'm floating in the air observing these ruins that I don't know where it was, except it felt like Turkey, except it wasn't ruins I'd ever seen. They were old ruins of old temples, and they weren't the Roman type look where it was, or the Egyptian where everything was a lighter, well, I don't know how, I haven't been to Egypt, but it was a kind of a dirt color. And then I'm floating around, and then all of a sudden I get grounded. I see tourists, and I go down these long stairs in the museum that was associated with it. And I'm in my body, but I'm not me. I'm a younger version. And I go down these long stairs, and I see these people in this restaurant, and I'm like, well, I'm on a mission here. I want to know where I am, mm-hmm. and I want to know the date. Mm-hmm. And this is really interesting. I hadn't thought of this. So the date, I borrowed someone's newspaper because I didn't want to ask, because that would be obvious. Right. And the date was March 18th today, but 1975.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't recognize the town or whatever it was in the newspaper, but I just felt like I was in Turkey. Hmm. And then I walked up the steps, and then that was the end of the vision, and I fell asleep at that point because I don't remember anything else. Mm-hmm. But I want to understand how this realm works. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to spread the vortex or the portal and see the wrinkle in time, or go through different dimensions. And one last thing on this, and then maybe later I'll have time to tell this other thing that was phenomenal, that happened twice in 2016. But this happened a few years ago. And I was talking about the truth, what is the truth of this realm? Mm-hmm. How does it work? I just got done hiking in this beautiful forest in southern Indiana. And I get in my car, and I had been listening to CDs. I never listened to the radio. And I've been listening to CDs before the hike. I turned the radio off, or the dial, you press it. And I'm in the car for a couple minutes, still in the beautiful forest area. And all of a sudden I start hearing music. And I thought it was my phone. I looked at, my iPhone on the chair. It wasn't that. On the passenger seat, it wasn't that. And then I realized it was coming from the speaker. And then I looked at the console, and there was a radio station on. And it was staticky, and all I could hear was Discover Static Truth. And I'm like, wait a minute. They want me to hear this, or my inner guidance wants me to hear this, and all I could hear again was Discover Static Truth, Discover Truth. And then it turned off as soon as, just like it turned on. And then about 10 minutes later, after I got my bearings, I turned on the radio again, and it went right to where the CD was during the middle of the song, where I'd been listening to before the hike. Mm-hmm. So there's something about discovering truth, but it's not about lies and truth in this realm. I feel it's what I'm wanting to discover is the truth of how this simulation
Sure.
or whatever it is works. So I can have fun in life, like we were talking, so I can be happy and have fun.
I want you to. Do you have something right to roll on that?
I do.
Okay, go.
Do you want?
Yep.
to go?
No,
Okay.
I'll.
Okay.
Because I think I've got it.
So I know that we are here to learn specific lessons, right? I mean, I'm not quite sure about the whole simulation thing. I feel like, that this earth was created specifically for us to grow spiritually. I feel like, when we are, after we pass from some life or release a life and we're up, and we're working with our spirit guides to figure out what our next lessons are, what we need to experience, that type of thing. I feel that we come down here and this is kind of like our playground, so to speak, but everything is real. That's, the way that I feel about it. I do believe in wrinkles in time because I think that past, present, future kind of collide simultaneously based upon the energy imprints, that type of thing. So yeah, that's really the way that I see it.
And the thing that I was going to add to that is, I remember a while back, our mutual friend Dr. Bob was saying, so his interpretation was, if you have a near-death experience or whatever, always go to the void. Go to the void,
Yeah.
Yeah, go to the void.
Don't go to the light.
Don't
Right,
go to the void.
go to the void.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how I am experiencing it now is that I am so incredibly thankful that we're being shown. Hello, Loki.
Come here, little girl.
She's coming to see you. She's
That's
like, hey,
right.
Mom, you're the only one I haven't seen yet.
That we are given patience in the fact that we're not instantly manifesting yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Because, we'll have a fleeting thought, and I'm always so thankful, oh, thank God they haven't let go of my reins yet, and I still have training wheels,
Yeah.
or that would have just happened.
Right.
So if we are in a place of learning, and we're learning how to create lifetime, then wouldn't it be beneficial to us to have a simulation running so that we weren't just in a void? So that we had programming, some sphere of imagery going on, so that we could play in it until we learned enough how to manifest our own reality lifetime, and then that would start fading almost, and we would be in our true manifestation.
I'm going to channel Meg Ryan and When Harry Met Sally. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. That's a
And
good one. That's a good show.
But seriously,
Yes.
Greg Braden talks about that.
Oh, does he?
And
That's
he
interesting.
does. And I subscribe to that because have mercy.
Right.
I mean, if I
I
were
know.
creating every thought that came into my head, first of all, I'd be in a flying car and I would not have to deal with traffic.
Yes.
Second of all, it'd be like that Ace Ventura. Well, it wasn't Ace Ventura. It was the other one, Bruce Almighty.
Oh, gosh.
Where Jim Carrey gets to be
yes.
God, and he gets ready to go to work in the morning. He's running behind. There's all this traffic, and he kind of waves his hand, and all the cars go. Whoop,
Yeah.
And there's a clear path all the way to work.
Yeah.
I would still be living that, and I would probably be a lot more selfish, right? and I'd be manifesting all these crazy things that would be humorous to me,
Yeah.
but probably pretty annoying to everybody else. So I do subscribe to the theory that this is a created simulation of our own choosing, of our own making, that allows us to co-create with other people, enjoy, experience, and grow, and master the art of manifestation.
Yes.
And I believe it is art and science. I believe it's combined. Like
Right.
happiness is a mathematical equation. Abundance does take focus. There is a way to attract what we want. And I really feel that it is all of these things mixed into our experience that helps us understand how to manifest, because I feel that before we move on, up, out, sideways,
Yeah,
whatever,
right.
and are free to move as an energetic body or energetic divine spark of our own, move beyond where we are to experience other things, we first have to master that skill.
Right.
And I think there are clues everywhere that help us with that. And a lot of, honey, I can complicate something. Ooh, I can add 15 things to a cookie recipe until it doesn't look like a cookie anymore. And I can do the same thing in my life. I can throw this or that in there. And at the same time, I really do think it's about discovering what we're true, or remembering what we are truly capable of. What we are deserving of. What is our innate gift as a soul spark. And I think we're helping each other uncover that and understand that in a relatively safe, whatever that word means, way in this experience, which, you know, is kind of simulated because we're creating it. I mean, I know that's a sort of a bigger way to think about it, but at the same time, whatever way works for you to wrap your head around it. Playground, you know, simulation in your computer brain, or it's real and we're still learning. It's like a classroom. However you wrap your understanding around it in a way that resonates for you. Yeah, we're creating it so that we can continue throughout this lifetime and others to grow, to experience ourselves differently. Hi, Crush.
And I think,
do you agree?
You were talking about the letting go, you know, if you could not be attached.
Yes.
When we start kind of releasing old programming kind of thing, one of the things I noticed with a conversation recently with a friend was, and again, I'm so thankful that we're moving slowly in this creation process, you know, because I have finally gotten to a point where I feel like I'm pretty detached. I'm pretty detached from the outcome of anything. And sometimes that can come across as insensitive. And so I had a conversation with someone, and they were saying, you know, well, what about my child's situation or my person's this? And it again, this has only been my experience, but my daughter has worked through many, many things. And all of the really challenges that have come across with health insurance or, you know, all of these things, I feel that those were much deeper issues that she came and created here for her to move through. And she has become an incredible creative person to find ways around, you know, and getting herself healed in much different ways instead of blaming a system, blaming this, you know. So I think as we detach too, it also, then we kind of move into another level of compassion.
I'd agree.
You know.
What do you think, Loretta?
Yeah, compassion is key.
I
think for a lot of different things. And I think that, you know, we kind of touched on this a little bit in the last episode that, you know, through the detachment, it's almost like becoming like non-judgmental. Like there was a book I was reading, The Seat of the Soul, and he talks about non-judgmental justice or something, and that's why we still have compassion and empathy, but we are looking at it from a attached view, knowing that that other person needs to go through that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also think responsibility is key in this simulation. And to me, discovering the truth of this realm or whatever it is, this playground, whatever we want to call it, however it mechanically works, that's what I'm wanting to find out. I know the scientists are talking about it as a simulation and that this is 1 in a billion chance it's base reality. And the science is actually proving, if you want to get into the geeky science, that this is a simulation. That's the craziness about it. What I want to be aware of is that I am responsible for what I am experiencing through the feelings and thoughts, like the parking spaces that we talked about. And what is happening is that life has always been the same in this simulation. It's just that as we discover the truth about it and we become more aware of how it's working, we're starting to see that the cause and effect, that our frequency is causing the effect. And our frequency about the parking space is causing the open parking space. And you know, people talk about dreams, that you dream about what you're feeling and thinking 24 hours before you dream it. Well, this is a dream, this awake dream in this simulation. So when we see synchronicities, all that is just the effect of the cause. And I think that we saw life slower because we didn't see the effect until years later, and we didn't connect the dots. We didn't realize that we caused that effect years later.
Right.
And it's because it was too painful to be responsible for the effect.
Right.
And now we're more aware, and it's not as painful now to see the effect.
Yes.
If we're thinking miserably, we're going to see a miserable effect.
Sure.
And we're going to see all the people, places, and things that may be here or not. It doesn't matter. That's what the scientists are saying. We're seeing the effect of our feelings and thoughts playing out in this simulation or playground.
Sure.
So I really feel that discovering the truth about this realm is also becoming responsible for the cause and the effect.
Right.
I would agree with that because like I said in a couple segments ago, that I used to really think that, we can control our actions, but we couldn't control how we feel as a result of them.
Right.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The older I get, the less likely I am to call something wrong just because I might not understand it. And so what I've learned is, yes, I create my own reality through thoughts, feelings, actions, and words. And I can, create whatever I want. And so in a way, what you're talking about with responsibility puts me squarely in the driver's seat of what I experience.
And we're starting to believe that we're creating it, or at least the cause and effect is connected, because these things are happening almost instantaneously, or maybe in an hour, and we're like, oh, I was just feeling that and it just happened.
Right.
Or I was just thinking of her and she just called.
Yes.
Right.
So we're seeing it.
Right.
Well, what was it that we were watching that said that consciousness is doubling on itself every 28 days?
Right.
Wow.
So right toward the beginning of the year, in the beginning of January, there were 3 big moon phases that occurred. And at that point, we took a big leap. It's like we had
The
a
new
different
moon of Capricorn brought that in.
new planetary alignment, and consciousness is doubling every 28 days and will continue for the next 2 years. So that's pretty amazing. And when we talk about how the Schumann resonance keeps taking these big leaps, and it actually was discovered by Tesla, and then Tesla never got it into publication, and so Schumann came along, read his works, published it, and then it was called the Schumann resonance, but it's the energy that holds our Earth together, and was always kind of the Ohm frequency, the 7.83 or 7.85, I can't remember, for recorded time. And then about a year ago, it suddenly took a jump overnight to 40. And got all this buzz going, and now it keeps exponentially jumping. And it was over, I believe it was 326 the last time that I saw. And they said by the time it hits, is it the 585 that's the...
let's see, what is that frequency? 432 and 538 or 585?
I think it's 585.
Okay.
Or 538, one of those two.
Yeah.
And it says that when it hits that, our DNA heals itself. So we're definitely moving we're moving through genetic changes in this simulation, and that's why everything, we're able to take responsibility more, we're able to see more, feel more, hear more, our senses are all expanding into this higher vibration, so that as we're literally healing inside of this space, that's
well, I'd like to call upon all of the scientists out there. I woke up one day and heard binary is an issue in cosmic space, and I didn't even know what binary was. I found out binary is 1 and 0s. That's what our computers are made up of. That's what the universe is made up of. That's what all the scientists are using, is 1 and 0s.
And it said binary is what?
Binary is an issue in cosmic space. So the scientists are saying that if we're in a simulation, which they think we are, that the fractal modality can continue to divide infinitely. However, there is a container, so there's only so much space. So I don't know whether the binary is an issue in cosmic space has to do with the same theory that this simulation, which had a beginning, the Big Bang, they're saying,
Sure.
will have an ending because there is only so much space.
I feel like that might be what the ascension is, where there will be a new opening for folks who resonate at that frequency or vibrate at that frequency to move forward, and for folks who don't to have more time to develop and unfold.
To go into another simulation or what? I mean, what's the point of all this?
I think it's going to another simulation.
Yeah.
I think the point of all of this is that, of all of it, of moving beyond the simulation, is that we understand our own divine energy. We have an understanding of ourselves in relation to the whole, because I think and feel that we're all connected.
Right.
And that we've all been connected, and we will always be connected. And that's why we feel things so strongly. We feel the suffering of others. We feel the pain of others. We feel the good things as well. It's why when one person starts laughing for no apparent reason, everybody starts cracking up laughing because it's contagious. Or one person yawns and everybody yawns. And some of those things, I mean, those are just easy, simple examples of how we're all connected. And I think once we wake up and become aware of that, and we understand that, how we act and take responsibility for our own actions, because they impact everybody. When we heal something in our life, and we heal a pattern that is not serving us, a repetitive pattern, we heal it for everybody.
Right.
And when we understand that level of responsibility, I feel like it helps us to be able to move forward. And the next, for me, my understanding, and at this point, is that the point is to understand our divineness and our sovereignty as an energetic body, and to be able to choose to help others come to that same understanding, or to be able to return to the whole. Whatever
and
that
I'm
looks like.
thankful for the simulations, because whether I go back to a YouTube video I watched on sacred geometry, and it just has empty space, and it says, in the beginning, and it's really cool because it's very mathematical, and it shows all of the sacred geometry signs.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is if we didn't have some simulation that we could step into to continue to grow, and those simulations kept getting more and more beautiful and more appealing, then it would just be space again, and then what would be
The fun of that.
right? What would be the fun of that?
And we're here to have fun.
That's right.
Well, the void can be fun,
Right.
if we're sitting in it, right?
Right.
And we can create. We've graduated to the point of being able to instantly manifest anything that we
Right.
want.
Right.
And how fabulous if we were able to invite others to co-create that beauty with us.
Right.
I won't
that's
go
kinda
into
right.
the details of this story back in 2016, but it happened on July 29th and August 29th, and I went into what I think was the void. And right afterwards, miracles happened in my life. I got my jewelry back instantaneously. My sister found it buried in the sand, what's the chance of that? And the second one was Volvo dealership gave me $2,000 worth of free maintenance to my car. After I went into the void and came out, and instantaneously I got the phone call from Volvo. Just like instantaneously I got out of the void, which is a beautiful space of nothingness, everything
Right,
emptied up and
right,
out.
right.
And right then my sister's going like this on the sand, and there's my jewelry. So
Well, what
I don't know
about you?
What that means.
You've been quiet.
I've just been listening because this is a very interesting topic, and I'm not quite sure what my, thoughts or beliefs are. So I'm perfectly content to learn something. I don't need
but
to
you're
talk.
so good at the cause and the effect. You're
Yeah.
hitting the doors a day and show parking spaces.
Yeah.
You are really good at cause and effect.
Yeah.
And I think that you're in such an amazing place because you're looking at what you're manifesting in a really fun way, and you're not being super attached to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're doing it in fun ways in your
Exactly.
life. And so there's some great things showing up for you.
Yeah.
So who cares about the science? Who cares about the math?
Right.
As long as I
Right.
know how to laugh and be happy.
Exactly.
Right.
And to create the life that you want.
Right.
you know,
Sure.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Well, because I can hoosh some things up into a big old stacked up bouffant. I can make it complicated, honey. But I think when we that's why I'm asking for simplicity. That's why I'm asking for truth. That's why I'm asking for understanding. Because I'm like, ooh,
the simple truth.
Yes, the simple truth. Well, that's pretty cool. So, where are you with simulated reality? Where are you with simulated reality? Simulated reality, yes or no?
Oh, well, you always do the yes or no. I'm going to say yes. Yes.
You can be undecided.
Undecided.
Okay. Yes or no? Simulated reality. I'm going to say thank goodness yes.
I know,
because I would be a hot, hairy mess if it weren't.
Yes.
So, that's kind of where I am with it. Yeah. I think we are in a simulated reality. I'm grateful for that.
So you may be here or not. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
Well, here's what I love. What I love is that in my sort of imagination, in my co-created scenario with all of you, we get to be here, we get to have fun.
Yes.
We get to pose questions that are interesting to the people that are viewing us.
Yeah.
And so we'd really love to know, where do you stand with this being a simulated reality in our experience, in our current life experience? Do you think we're living a simulated reality or not? So yes or no, and what brings you to that conclusion? We'd love to hear about that on our Facebook page at Rising Tides Global. Yeah, it's a miracle I remember that.
Or please, when you subscribe to our Vision Within YouTube channel, then you can also comment and all of that too.
Awesome.
So yay.
And also, I'd love to hear, and I think all of us would love to hear, if you subscribe to Elon Musk's theory that the Tesla cars, and he's building spacecraft to go to Mars, and he's just way outside the box. Elon Musk. If you subscribe to his theory that this is a 1 in a billion chance that this is the base reality, what is the base reality? He believes this is a simulation, and he thinks it's a 1 in a billion chance that this is the base reality, and he views that, or he gets that theory based on the fact that we are creating simulations right now, video games, simulations, virtual reality games that don't look any differently than this reality. They're coming to our theater soon. And he says we can do 1 billion of those right now. So that's why he's thinking that this is 1 in a billion chance that this is base reality. I want to know, what is the base reality?
All right,
I want to go there.
That's for another episode.
I don't want to go there yet. I'm just going to throw that out there. I need to keep learning. I got to stay in school.
I want to go in and out.
Okay.
I could come back to school, but I want to go to the base reality and then come back and go to this other simulation. And, like that flash I saw in my out-of-body experience. Maybe that's how it's like a solar flash. Boom,
Could
boom,
be.
we go in and out.
It could be. Yeah, I don't know that I am... I can tell you I have not let go of the fear of that yet. I think that's wonderful to think about, to be able to experience a lot of other things in our energetic body, in our sleep state, what have you. And I am willing to do that as long as it doesn't scare the business out of me.
Well, I can
let go of the fear.
I
frankly.
think that we're probably about done because I smell our delicious lunch.
Nice.
Yes.
Cooking,
Okay.
and doesn't it smell delicious?
It does smell good.
We always have, after our 4th segment, we always have this beautiful lunch.
We do.
Yes.
So do you want to wrap us up, Kat?
Sure, I'd love to. So we've been talking a little bit about whether we live in a simulated reality or not. And Lisa's talked to us a little bit about some of the science and some of the thought leaders in that perspective. Elon Musk. I talked a little bit about Greg Braden with my yes, 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 channeling my inner Meg Ryan.
And he's got a great show on Gaia right now. He just ended it.
Missing Links.
Missing Links, this last series on
I
simulation.
don't know if we're supposed to plug that exactly.
Yeah, well, we just
So
did.
shh, don't talk in here.
They'll be happy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And Loretta, you talked to us about, I'm not really sure, and I love that you are so open to other ideas, and I love that you kind of play in the manifesting and understanding it and sort of trying it on for size. I really love your perspective on that. Some parts of me, I believe everything happens the way that it should, but some parts of me would have hoped that I would have had the same fun perspective as I'm growing, and I hope I can take that on and take a kind of page from your book and adapt that as I move forward. And Lori, you kind of shared with us some of your perspective about A Wrinkle in Time and being appreciative that things are moving a little bit slower in this reality, and you're getting the chance to kind of learn and grow in a way that, isn't disastrous for yourself or others. And I kind of agree with all of that. I just think that there's this, in thinking about whether we're living in a simulated reality or not, there are some fun things to consider. And I think it allows us to have fun with it and play and imagine and visualize and create, as Lisa will talk about a lot of times. So we just invite you to share your thoughts with us as well, and we look forward to having you join us on our next segment. I'm Katrina.
I'm Lori.
Loretta.
And I'm Lisa, and I just want to say, I asked what's the point. I really do feel the point is to have fun.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.